We're going to talk about a time that our perspective was challenged and the outcome. Can we think of a situation recently or from the past where our perspective would have been challenged? I mean, I feel like perspective or perception, is it perception or perspective? Are those both the same?
I mean, perception would be the way that we see a situation or event, where perspective would be our idea about something, our beliefs about something. So
I think the longer that you've been in business for yourself, or the longer that you've spent being an entrepreneur, I think the easier it might be for you to change your perception about different aspects of the business, as opposed to a newbie or someone who is brand new to working with people in relationships.
Yeah.
Because, you know, one of the things that we really highlight within our business is partners over projects. But I think it takes a long time for a business to mature in that way, in order for you to be able to be comfortable enough to shift your ideas, because those ideas that you've hung on to so dearly for such a long time are actually what probably made you your first million, or like made you your first sales and your clients. But something that I've seen in working full time with Vinci Digital is that there's just certain situations that are extremely predictable, and that clients act the same in a lot of different situations and scenarios.
Yeah, it makes me laugh, because that's how it is all the time. I'm always like, oh, well, watch what happens when I say this or do this, or when we pull the trigger on this. It's funny, the domino effect that seems to happen every time consistently. And I always say that we don't specialize in markets, we specialize in results. So we work with clients across just about every different type of industry that you could imagine. And it's really interesting how the results are very similar, how the reactions, how the conversations are very similar across the board. If I had to say like something that challenged my perspective lately, I think it would probably be the way that we go about doing our RFPs. so request for proposals is a very complex project for me, because I take a lot of pride, and we do a lot of research into really learning and becoming subject matter experts in even our prospective clients' businesses, so that we can deliver a solution or a range of suggestions to them that really is outside of what they normally get when working with an agency. So recently there was an RFP that came across my desk that just I wasn't in alignment with our agency, with the way that we wanted to do RFPs, and it really challenged my perspective and
of the client, alone.
Yeah, it challenged the perspective I had of the client, my perceived perspective of the client, and it also changed my perception of how we go about doing RFPs. And it was funny, because in a lot of cases like this, it may make you change the way that you want to do things or the way you like to do things, but in reality, it actually reinforced the way that we like to do things. For me, it was just a clearer indication that the way we're doing it is the way that we're going to keep doing it, because it is one of the things that sets us apart.
I don't feel like you can be successful when you're in somebody else's perceived notion of how they view something like that should go. And when we have clients who reach out to us, they're reaching out to us for our expertise. And so the way that we view ourselves in the process of doing a proposal and the way that the client views the process can be very, very different.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's our job as the entrepreneur or the person that is vying for that spot, that they can see have a different perception of how the relationship could go, so that you can help bridge that gap between clients. Because if the perception is not taken on or not perceived very well by the client, then they're not going to want to work with us. And there was a perception that we had recently about a proposal that had come into our space, and we perceived this particular client also as not being a client that we would want to be in partnership with if we could already start to see our perceived red flags.
Yeah. Cracks in the foundation before we even get started. It was kind of alarming.
And then because of the boundaries that we've already set within our business, that have come from having to shift mindsets and having to change perceptions about certain processes, then what really ended up happening is that we got some validation because we were able to stand within our boundaries. And not only that, but we were able to change the way that the client saw us also.
Their perception.
Because there was vulnerability within this too.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for entrepreneurs and CEOs, and I think it's hard for us to be vulnerable with potential clients. You don't necessarily want them to see you or to see all of the hands that you might have to play, and we're the opposite. And that was a shift in perception that we did recently, actually, to be very candid with our potential partnerships. We really want them to know the things that we're noticing that may make it more complicated for us to have a good standing relationship.
Yeah. And it really changed the conversation too in the whole process. It went from, me saying, we're not going to do it your way, we're going to do it our way, and here's why, and them realizing, yes, your way makes more sense. Can we do it your way? Please, can you be a part of this process? So it was a really rewarding experience, and I'm really glad that we were able to articulate what our concerns were, where our boundaries were, and have the client kind of meet us where we're at.
And I think that that's the beauty that a shift in perception can give you, is that we got validation. Not everybody needs that, but it was good to see that the new boundaries that we were putting into our business were being respected, which then opened up a candid conversation with the client, which then, again, helped them see themselves in a vulnerable light, but not to feel like they needed to be defensive about those things, and just like us. So it actually took a situation in which we had already wanted to step away from and actually ended up giving open reception, like a door opened within the conversation. And so now that everybody is totally upfront, totally honest.
Swimming in the right direction.
Yeah, it was just it was like magic, because they knew of us. We're already working with them in some capacity, but they needed to shift in mindset just as much as we needed to shift our mindset, and to also get that confirmation that the direction in which we're going is actually one that is in alignment for our highest good. And that's how we really get to be partners with the people that we work with. So no longer is it a business-client relationship, but we're truly getting to handpick the people that we want to have a partnership with when it comes to other businesses.
Yeah, just as much as they're qualifying us, we're qualifying them. So it's a really mutually beneficial process.
Yeah. So try it out and let us know how it works for you.